So what is happening up here in the rural bolt hole, as I call my little spot away from the wilds of New York City, where we're all hiding out until, things blow over? Well, I've been going through a bunch of old comics and toys, but before I show you some of my discoveries or rediscoveries, I'm flipping through the New York Times this morning, obviously online. They had a great interview with Larry David. I always enjoy reading about Larry David. I'm reading the profile. Well done. But the only way you can interview Larry David is through digital means. You're not going to go to his house and sit down with him. So the author of this profile said, I'm going to FaceTime Larry David. That's how he does interviews now. And the author says, it's my first FaceTime and I'm nervous. Having watched all week as even the glossiest cable news shows have downshifted into low-tech Wayne's World basement productions. To shore up confidence beforehand, I asked my lighting sensei, Tom Ford, for some tips. Now I say to myself, it's a bit of a journalism optics issue here. Clearly an accomplished writer, and you say, I've never FaceTimed before, so I'm going to ask Tom Ford how to do it. I said, who wrote this? I scrolled up to the top, and it was Maureen Dowd. If Grandma can FaceTime, Maureen Dowd is no excuse. That said, some of the advice was pretty good. Stack your webcam up on books or something so it's about eye height or a little higher, pointed slightly down at you. A little too much emphasis on artificial light. I think if you have good natural light, that's probably the best tip you can give people. And of course, if you're recording it like this, some decent external sound equipment, also very important. So there, we've learned something, so I guess it's okay in the end. Digging through the comic boxes, entering them into this database where I'm trying to figure out what we have and what its approximate value may be, I ran across one of my 80s favorites. I really thought this series was going to go the distance. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were very big. There were a whole lot of knockoffs that didn't last very long. Everyone wanted to do something similar. I thought this was one of the better ones at the time. I was probably an early teen at that point, so what did I know? But I was super into the Adolescent, Radioactive, black belt Hamsters, and instead of Renaissance painters, they were named after action movie stars like Clint Eastwood and Chuck Norris. And you can even see on the cover of the first issue here, the Turtles were a bit of a take on Frank Miller's Ronin series, and this is even more so, almost copying that Ronin cover, which was a DC miniseries that Frank Miller worked on. I think it only lasted like 2 years, and I thought if any of the knockoffs were going to follow in that same turtle commercial success line, it would have been these guys. I was clearly wrong. I also dug up a few other great tidbits from the A box. After Adolescent, alphabetically, I ran across Advanced Dungeons and Dragons comic series from DC, co-branded TSR. I've got 2 issues of this, not sure if it lasted any longer than that. The big find here, A-Team, #1. It even says #1 collector's item issue right here. So you knew they were thinking ahead about the long-term viability of the A-Team brand. Cover price, 60 cents. Looks like it's around $6 now. I think that's a little generous. You'd be lucky to get the 60 cents back. So I'm just going to keep it in the bag and enjoy George Papard looking younger than he ever did in illustrated comic book form. Last time I was up here, a couple of months ago, I went through a bunch of old books and I found, apparently I used to collect really strange random biographies or autobiographies. I found the Dennis Rodman book, Bad As I Wanna Be. I found the Christopher Darden book. OJ prosecutor Christopher Darden. I must have. I think I've read this whole thing. I must have enjoyed it. Oh my God! I just put this down and I noticed the back of the Dennis Rodman book. That's unfortunate, right there. It seemed super relevant that I found Bloomberg by Bloomberg. I was like, wow! I'm gonna really dive through this for insight into a possible presidential candidate who's doing extremely well. Well, a couple weeks later, forget it. I guess that's pointless. This is going back on the dusty bookshelf. So sorry, Mayor Mike. Your 1997 book suddenly irrelevant again, although, hey, back cover blurb from Rupert Murdoch, okay. Well, that's what we've discovered today on the Dan Daily. Thank you.